Have you ever used a loophole to beat your HOA at their own game? Back in 2005, my partner and I bought our very first house together. Cute little place in a brand new subdivision. We were happy, planning for a baby, and the neighborhood seemed quiet and perfect. The HOA had just formed, but at the time, it felt harmless. We were at the end of a cul-de-sac, barely any traffic, and all our neighbors were friendly. Life felt good. Fast forward 3 years, and the economy collapsed. Foreclosures swept through the subdivision. Over half the houses sat empty or were abandoned. Landscaping died, junk cars popped up everywhere, and one house even burned to the foundation. Like a lot of people, we stopped paying our mortgage. Instead, I moved a family friend and his family in. They'd lost their own home, so he paid me discounted rent, and I used it to maintain the place. It wasn't perfect, but it kept the house in good shape. Then one day, out of nowhere, the HOA painted every curb in every cul-de-sac bright red, fire lane red. I was furious. That meant no more parking in front of my house, not for me, not for guests, not even for a quick drop-off. We had to park down the street and hike in. I called the fire department asking why on earth they needed so many fire lanes in a neighborhood with barely any hydrants. They said they hadn't requested a thing. In fact, they explained, paint on a curb is meaningless unless there's signage or a hydrant. That's when I realized what was happening. The HOA was pulling a scam. Their bylaws allowed them to fine homeowners for violating safety zones. By painting curbs red, they created fake zones to generate money. And wouldn't you know it, the HOA president just happened to live at the end of a cul-de-sac. Suddenly, her neighbors couldn't park near her home without risking fines. That didn't sit right with me. One night, I put on a high-vis vest, safety glasses, and work boots. I looked official enough. Then I painted over the entire red curb in plain, boring gray concrete paint. 3 weeks later, it was red again. 2 days later, gray. 5 weeks later, red. Then gray again. This time with a silicone top sealer. After that, red paint that flaked right off. Then more red, more gray. Finally, they stuck up a sign. Safety zone, no parking. The petty back and forth had become a standoff, but that was only the warm-up. Eventually, the house officially entered foreclosure. I started working with an agency to arrange a short sale. That meant the bank would forgive the massive debt as long as we handed the property back in good condition. Instead of being stuck with $350,000 plus interest on a house now worth just $165,000, we'd walk away clean. It wasn't ideal, but it was better than drowning. During a short sale, you're required to notify any parties who might have a lien on the house. That included the HOA. I figured I was fine. I was current on dues, and I had no outstanding violations. But then, as if on cue, the HOA magically produced a laundry list of supposed violations dating back 5 months. They claimed I'd ignored them all. The total fines? $1,955, just $45 shy of felony fraud territory. The list was absurd. Black tire marks on the driveway, an uncoiled garden hose, an unapproved tree they themselves had approved, bushes they had previously signed off on me removing, and my favorite, a dead tree in the front yard. I had to point out that many trees lose leaves in November. They're dormant, not dead, and even if one had died, no one replaces a tree in the middle of winter. Nurseries don't sell them then, unless the HOA expected me to plant a Christmas tree in January. It was an impossible demand. Still, they dragged their feet. Meanwhile, the clock was ticking on my short sale. If I didn't clear everything by the deadline, the whole deal would collapse. I'd be left on the hook for hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I asked the escrow officer what she actually needed to close. She told me, just the HOA lien. If you can pay it, we're good to go. I asked what form of payment she preferred. She said, cash, money order, or check. A check is easiest perfect. I wrote the HOA a check for the full $1,955 and handed it over. The escrow officer confirmed that was all she needed. The short sale closed the next day. At 9:01 a.m., I got the call. The documents had recorded and everything was finalized. I was free. So I walked straight into my bank, handed the teller the slip, and said, I need to place a stop payment on a check. The HOA never contacted me again. And just like that, the people who tried to bleed me dry one last time got nothing.